Found bruises all over my kids. Now I'm being told I have to send them back to my ex-wife. I'm sitting here in my living room at 3 a.m., staring at the baby monitor even though my boys are 7 and 10. They're both asleep in my bed right now because neither of them can handle being alone in the dark anymore. My hands are shaking so badly I can barely type this, but I need to get this out. I need to know if I'm losing my mind or if the legal system in Michigan is as broken as it feels right now. 6 months ago, my life was normal. My ex-wife and I split up. It wasn't high drama, just two people who had grown into different shapes that didn't fit together anymore. We signed the papers, divided the assets, and agreed on a 50-50 week-on, week-off custody schedule. For the first few months, it was actually okay. We were amicable. We prioritized the boys. Then, about 5 months ago, she started seeing a new guy. I didn't like him from the jump. It wasn't a jealous ex thing, it was a gut instinct thing. He was too polished, too loud, and he had this way of looking through me like I was part of the furniture. A month ago, he unofficially moved in. My ex didn't tell me. I found out because my 10-year-old mentioned that the guy has a key now and his boxes are all over the spare room. The drop-off this past Friday was different. Usually, my ex at least gives a polite nod. This time, she wouldn't look at me. She stayed in the car, engine idling, staring straight through the windshield while the boys climbed out. She looked gray, sallow. I thought maybe she was sick or stressed at work. I didn't push it because lately, any attempt at conversation is met with total silence or a snapped one-word answer. As soon as they got inside, the energy was off. My 7-year-old, who has ADHD and is usually a literal human bouncy ball, was silent. He walked to the couch and just sat there, hands tucked under his thighs, staring at the blank TV screen. My 10-year-old was the opposite, pacing, fidgeting with his shirt collar, checking the windows. "Hey guys," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "Pizza's on the way. You want to start the PlayStation or get a jump on that math packet?" The 10-year-old jumped like I'd fired a gun. "Homework," he said quickly. Too quickly. "We should do homework." That was the first red flag. My kids don't volunteer for math on a Friday night. I watched them for an hour. The 7-year-old didn't eat his pizza. He just picked at the crust, his eyes darting to his brother every time I moved. Around 8:30 p.m., I told them to head up and shower. I was sitting at the kitchen table, scrolling through work emails, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was fundamentally wrong. I went upstairs to say goodnight and grabbed their dirty laundry. I walked into their room just as my 7-year-old was pulling a pajama shirt over his head. He didn't see me come in. For a split second, I saw his back. I stopped breathing. His back wasn't skin-colored. It was a map of purple, yellow, and deep, angry red. There were long, thin welts that wrapped around his ribs. "Take the shirt off," I said. My voice sounded like it was coming from someone else, somewhere far away. He froze. He actually whimpered. This is a kid who, up until 3 months ago, I was still helping scrub his ears in the bath. He's never been modest. He would run around in his boxers all day if I let him. But now, he clutched that pajama shirt to his chest like a shield. "I'm fine, Dad. I just fell. I fell at the park." "Take the shirt off. Now." He slowly let it drop. It wasn't just his back. His chest had bruises the size of silver dollars. His thighs had lacerations, the kind a belt buckle leaves when it swung with full force. I had to walk out of the room. I went into the bathroom, turned on the fan, and put a towel in my mouth so they wouldn't hear me scream. I have never felt a rage like that. It's a physical weight in your chest that makes it hard to swallow. I went back in, kept my voice as steady as I could, and looked at my 10-year-old. He was trembling so hard his teeth were literally chattering. I took him into the hallway. "Tell me," I whispered. He broke. He told me that a few days ago, his brother got a C on a spelling quiz. The boyfriend lost it. He told him he was stupid and lazy and that he needed to be straightened out. He took him into the bedroom with a belt. When my 7-year-old started crying, because he's 7, the boyfriend started hitting him harder, yelling that men don't cry and I'll give you something to actually cry about. Then came the part that broke my heart into a million pieces. My son looked me in the eyes and said, "Mom was there, Dad." She was sitting on the bed. She just watched. She didn't say anything. She just looked at the floor. This is the woman who used to rescue spiders with a glass and a piece of paper. This is the woman who once threatened to sue a school district because a coach raised his voice. And she sat there while a stranger brutalized our son. My 10-year-old said the boyfriend told them that if they ever told me, they would never see their mom again. He told them the police would take her away and it would be their fault. My ex-wife, their mother, backed him up on it. She told them to keep their mouths shut for the sake of the family. I spent all of Saturday taking photos. Every angle. Every bruise. I went to a lawyer's office first thing Saturday morning. I thought this would be an open and shut case. I thought I'd have an emergency order by Saturday afternoon. I was wrong. My lawyer sat me down and gave me the coldest reality check of my life. Because the boyfriend, technically, doesn't live there, he kept his old apartment lease as a paper trail, it's harder to prove the household is permanently dangerous. My lawyer warned me that as soon as my ex gets served, she'll likely claim they just broke up, kick him out for 2 weeks to look good for the court, get a restraining order against him as a performance, and then let him slip back in the back door once the heat is off. And the worst part? My lawyer told me that as of right now, I have to return them this coming Friday. The custody hearing isn't until Wednesday of the following week. There is a 5-day gap where, legally, I am required to hand my children back over to a woman who watched them get beaten. If you don't return them, my lawyer said, she can call the police for parental kidnapping. It will look terrible at the hearing. It could cost you the permanent custody win. I looked at him and asked, what looks worse? A kidnapping charge, or me burying my son because that man lost his temper again? The last few days have been a living nightmare. My 7-year-old won't go to the bathroom alone. He thinks every loud noise is the boyfriend coming through the door. My 10-year-old is drowning in brother's guilt, he thinks he should have fought the guy off. He's 10. He weighs 75 pounds. I've been trying to act normal for them, but I'm a ghost. I'm spending every waking second documenting everything. I've reached out to their teachers, discreetly, to see if they noticed anything. I've got them into emergency counseling starting tomorrow. I'm sitting here looking at the clock. It's Tuesday. I have 3 days until I'm supposed to put them back in that car. My lawyer is telling me to play the game so I don't lose the long-term war, but my soul is screaming. Every fiber of my being is telling me to grab my passport, empty my bank account, and drive until the road ends. I haven't messaged my ex yet. I don't want her to know I know. If she knows, she'll coach them. She'll hide the marks. She'll disappear with them herself. I have to be smart, but being smart feels like being a coward. The kids are terrified. My 10-year-old asked me tonight, Dad, do we have to go back? I didn't answer him. I couldn't. I just hugged him until he fell asleep. So, Reddit, I'm at a crossroads. If I keep them, I'm a kidnapper in the eyes of the Michigan court. If I send them back, I'm an accomplice to their abuse. How is this even a choice? My lawyer says, trust the process, but the process involves handing my bruised children back to their abuser for 5 days. I'm not doing it. I've already decided. I don't care if they throw me in jail. I don't care if I never hold a job again. They aren't going back to that house. But I'm terrified. What if my defiance is what makes the judge give them back to her permanently? What if I'm playing right into her hands? I keep thinking about her. My ex. How did she get here? Is he hitting her too? Is she so scared for her own life that she's sacrificing the kids? A part of me wants to save her, but that part is very small and it's being drowned out by the memory of the welts on my son's back. If she wanted to be saved, she should have picked up her kids and run to my house the second that belt swung. She didn't. She stayed. The silence in this house is heavy. I can hear the heater humming and the soft breathing of my boys in the other room. It's the only thing keeping me grounded. What do? Do I follow the law and hope they survive 5 days? Or do I break the law to ensure they do? Is there any legal loophole I'm missing? My lawyer is being cautious, but I don't need caution. I need a shield. I need a way to keep my kids safe without handing my ex a victory on a silver platter. I'm going to stay up all night again. I'm going to keep watching the monitor. I'm going to keep looking at those photos until the rage burns out everything else. If anyone has been through a Michigan custody battle involving abuse, please. I'm begging you. Tell me there's a way out of this that doesn't involve me in handcuffs or my kids in a hospital. I can't let them go back. I won't. Edit. Question 1. My lawyer is telling me to be prepared for my ex to say I abused the kids and coached them to lie. Is there anything I can do to get out in front of that? Question 2. I wouldn't be surprised if the boyfriend has been abusing my ex-wife. My lawyer said if this is the case she might use that as a defense for not stepping in when the kids were being beaten mercilessly by a grown adult man. If this surfaces, does it help or hurt my efforts to keep the kids in my custody? Update. The last few days have been the longest stretch of my life, and everything that's happened since I wrote that first post still doesn't feel real. I'm running on almost no sleep, living off adrenaline and whatever focus I can pull together for the boys. Every decision has felt like it carries consequences I can't fully predict, but there wasn't any option to sit still and hope things worked out. The morning after I posted, I got both kids ready and took them straight to the hospital. I didn't want to wait for a pediatrician appointment or risk losing time. I told them we were just getting checked to make sure everything was okay, kept it simple, didn't push them to explain anything more than they already had. The staff there didn't treat it like a routine visit. The moment they saw the injuries, everything shifted. They separated us briefly to talk to the kids, brought in additional staff, and within a short amount of time there were more people involved than I expected. The exams were thorough. They documented everything, took photographs, asked careful questions without pushing too hard. It was clear they were trained to handle situations like this, but that didn't make it easier to watch. At some point, the hospital contacted authorities, and police showed up. I had already called CPS on the way there, but hearing it repeated through official channels made it feel more serious in a way that's hard to explain. It wasn't just me saying something was wrong anymore. It was being recorded, written down, turned into something that couldn't be dismissed as a misunderstanding. By the time we left the hospital, there was a paper trail that didn't rely on my word alone. That turned out to matter more than anything else that followed. I didn't realize at the time how important it was that everything started there, with professionals documenting what they saw. Right after that, my original lawyer approached me and admitted he wasn't equipped to handle what this had turned into. He had been helping me out more as a favor than anything else, and instead of trying to push through something outside his experience, he connected me with someone who specialized in cases like this. That decision probably changed the entire outcome. The new lawyer came in with a completely different approach. She didn't hesitate, didn't soften anything, and immediately started building a strategy based on what had already been documented. While all of that was happening, my ex showed up at my house without warning. I saw her before she saw me. She was at the door, pounding and yelling, and for a second I just sat there trying to process how she even knew where to come or what she thought she was going to accomplish. The kids were in the back seat, completely unaware. I hadn't pulled into the driveway yet, and I made the decision right there to keep driving. I didn't engage, didn't roll the window down, didn't give her any indication I was even there. I drove past the house and didn't stop until we were a few towns away. I told the boys we were going out for ice cream. It wasn't planned, but it kept things calm. They didn't question it, which said more than anything else. They just went along with it, and we stayed out longer than necessary because I didn't feel comfortable going back right away. It wasn't about avoiding her as much as it was about not letting them see that confrontation. From there, everything escalated quickly on the legal side. CPS opened a case, and by that point there were multiple reports coming in from different sources. Mine, the hospitals, the police, my new lawyer, my original lawyer, and the school counselor after I followed the advice to notify the school. That last step felt strange at first, but it added another layer of documentation that connected what was happening at home to their behavior outside of it. The number of reports ended up being significant. It created a situation where the court couldn't treat this as a single accusation. It was coming from multiple directions, all pointing to the same conclusion. My lawyer explained that this kind of consistency across reports is what forces movement in cases that might otherwise stall. Those nights were still rough. The boys didn't want to sleep alone, and I didn't push it. The younger one stayed close, waking up if I moved too much. The older one tried to act like he was fine, but it showed in small ways. He'd stay up reading, checking doors, listening for sounds. I drove them around one night just to get them to sleep because it was the only place they seemed to relax. The car ride turned into hours without me even noticing the time. When the hearing day came, we got there early and then ended up waiting for hours. The delay made everything worse. Sitting there with nothing to do but think about what could go wrong was harder than anything else. My lawyer stayed calm the entire time. She kept going over what had been documented, what the reports said, how the timeline worked in our favor. It helped, but it didn't take away the uncertainty. Before we even stepped into the courtroom, CPS had already done part of their work. The caseworker had visited my ex's house and spoken to both her and the boyfriend. I didn't get the full details, but I was told that based on that visit, the recommendation was that the kids should remain with me. That was the first moment I felt like something might actually go the right way. The boys had also been interviewed by CPS. From what I was told, they handled it as well as could be expected. They didn't need to say everything perfectly. The consistency between what they shared and what had already been documented mattered more than anything else. When we finally got into court, things moved quickly. My ex's lawyer tried to explain the injuries as an accident, claiming the younger one had fallen and gotten hurt that way. It didn't line up with the medical reports, and when the boys were asked about it, they didn't recognize the scenario he was describing. That explanation didn't hold. After that fell apart, there was an attempt to redirect things toward me, suggesting I had caused the injuries. It didn't gain any traction. The judge shut it down almost immediately, and that reaction set the tone for the rest of the hearing. By the end of that session, I was granted temporary custody. That meant I didn't have to return them at the end of the week. That alone changed everything. The pressure of that deadline disappeared, and for the first time since this started, I wasn't counting down hours to a moment I was dreading. The days leading up to the next hearing were still tense, but there was a difference. The boys went back to school, and having that routine helped more than I expected. It gave them something familiar, something that wasn't tied to everything that had happened. The older one fell asleep without waking up for the first time since they came to me, which felt like a small but important shift. The next court date didn't go smoothly at first. My ex and her lawyer presented what they claimed was evidence against me, including a fabricated claim about me being fired for violent behavior. It came with a letter from someone who didn't exist, which threw me off completely in the moment. It was unexpected and, for a brief period, it felt like things were slipping. My lawyer didn't let it stand. She immediately challenged it, questioned where it came from, and pushed until it was clear it wasn't legitimate. Once that was exposed, the focus shifted back to the actual case. It was one of those moments where having someone experienced handling it made all the difference. By the end of that hearing, the final decision came through. I was granted full custody. My ex was given limited, supervised visitation under strict conditions, including that the boyfriend cannot be present in any capacity. There are requirements she has to meet if she wants to change that in the future, and those are on her now. There's also been some indication that she's being directed toward counseling. I don't know how much of that is genuine or how it will play out, but it doesn't change anything for me at this point. My lawyer is continuing to follow up on the misconduct surrounding the false evidence. That's still being handled, and I'm letting her deal with it. Right now, the boys are with me. That's what matters. They're still finishing out the school year where they were, but I'm planning to move them to a different district once the year ends. It feels like the right step to give them distance from everything tied to that house. Things aren't fixed. There are still moments where it all comes back for them. Therapy has started, and it's going to take time. But they're safer now than they were, and that's the one thing I was focused on from the beginning. Everything else can be dealt with later.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Daily Tales Update for more such stories.